Good. And we are very privileged this morning to have with us three individuals, three trainers who will be able to teach us more as they have a lot of experience in leading youths, in leading young people to discover their life's direction. So first, I'd like to introduce them. I'd like to introduce, starting with Joanne. Joanne has a special interest in helping people discover their strengths and aspirations to lead a meaningful professional career and write a richer life story. Her career spans the public sector, Korn Ferry, and INSEAD. And she has also taught in master's program in NUS and SMU. She currently also trains aspiring career counselors in job and labor market analysis. So that's Joanne. So we also have Ivan this morning. He has served with Cruise Singapore for 22 years. In his 22 years of ministry with the Junior College Ministry, Young Professionals Ministry, and currently the Significance Project. He enjoys shepherding people in their spiritual, relational, and vocational growth. So one of his passions is to help people clarify life issues and life direction. Thirdly, we have Sharon, who has been on staff with Crew for the last 33 years. She enjoys teaching and equipping people, especially campus students, to live out their identity and calling in Christ. She's currently involved with the Significance Project, helping people of all ages and in different walks of life find their life purpose and mission. She's married with 2 children, aged 21 and 18. So without further, before I pass the time over to Joanne, I'd like to do a poll on your background. So could we have the Mentimeter up? Maggie is helping us do tech today, so we'd like to thank her. So we'd like to know your background, whether you are youth or youth pastoral staff or parents or educators or others. So could you go to menti.com and use the code maximum participation, or the link is inside the chat already.
Yeah, the link is inside the chat and it's also on the screen. Oh, interesting. We are also having Gen Z participants in this group. You know, it's always very interesting, David, when I was facilitating a course for career coaches, and, you know, we were talking about Gen Y and millennials, and, you know, it's very interesting that we always think that Gen Ys and millennials are, you know, somewhere around. And when I did a poll of my audience, and mind you, my audience, my participants can be COOs and directors. They were very shocked that 50% of their colleagues in the same room were actually Gen Ys.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so, which is why I'm doing this poll, because you'll be surprised that some of your colleagues in the office are actually the Gen Ys and the Gen Z. And which is why this kind of polling is very interesting to understand the multi-generational workforce and how do we even adapt to them. Yeah.
Yes, and you would know really, because you're the expert in the field, having spoken and trained many different people in your years of service in the public sector and private sector. So we are actually really privileged to have you with us this morning, Joanne.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm wondering whether you can see my screen as well. The results, yes, you can. I thank you, Meg, for nodding your head as an affirmation. And so you can see our audience, majority are from Gen X and baby boomers, but we do have a number of Gen Ys and Gen Z in the audience. So please feel free to step in and share with us because we, the Gen Xers and baby boomers, need to understand you as well. And you are the best to share with us some of your profiles. I'm going to stop screen share right now, David, and back to you.
Yes, and I like to do some admin. So we have actually a fellow staff worker called Pei who's able to also answer any questions live. She's really here. She's not AI. She's not a chatbot. And she's here with us to answer any questions on chat. So she's part of the Significance Project team also. So feel free to, in the course of, because we cannot answer every single question, but we really like to interact with you if you have any questions. So feel free to ask anything on the chat. Pui Mei will be there to answer. And also, we have another Q&A platform called Pigeonhole. So could I have the Pigeonhole details? If you go to the chat, to the Zoom chat, you will see that the voting, that there's a Pigeonhole link there. So if you have any questions, you can post it there. And you are able to upvote any questions that you feel that is relevant and you're concerned about. So without further ado, I'd like to hand the time to Ivan, who will bring us on this journey.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, David, for the introduction and also for setting the stage for this morning's conversation. My name is Ivan. To begin with, I'd like to share a poem that will set the stage for this morning's conversation. This is a poem that describes the quest for identity and for our vocation. Let me read this. It says, "Now I have become myself. It's taken time, many years and places. I've been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces." I think what struck me is really about becoming myself. I'm not sure about you, but it took me a while to become myself. I've been shaken, I've been dissolved, I've worn people's faces. So that has been my own journey regarding the quest for my identity and my vocation, meaning that to discover my life calling, my life direction and purpose. Why is becoming ourselves important? So that's the question that I'm asking. Why is becoming ourselves important? Well, personally, I am not being affirmed in my youth and also because of my family circumstances. And the place that I was affirmed was only at the age of 38 during a retreat. So during the retreat itself, the spiritual director helps me to understand my identity, though I'm 38, but helps me to understand my identity, my core strength, and also my style of leadership. And because of the affirmation, I'm able to be encouraged regarding who I am and to become who I am, that God has intended me to be. So since then, it has taken off in a new life direction for me, because now that I'm affirmed, I can be myself. I'm also more certain of my leadership style and the strength that I bring in life and in ministry. So that has been my journey. I believe that this morning, even as we engage in this topic itself, helping you to discover their life purpose and direction, you will also be blessed as you allow God to speak to your heart. First of all, about who we are in Christ Jesus, and also how He has uniquely designed us to be. And from there, to discover what His calling is and His direction for our life. So let me also introduce a significant project, even as an associate with the significant project. We have two sets of resources. So these are the discipleship life coaching resources which I'll introduce, and later we will introduce soaring and quest resources for people who are seekers. So the discipleship life coaching resources has been designed to help men and women connect with God and to discover their mission and to live out their mission. This resources has been translated quite widely. For the significant woman, it has been used, it's being used in 52 countries, and it has 20 languages that has been translated. For the Men of Impact, we started a bit slower. Okay, so we have about 20 countries and about 10 languages. So the languages are being translated more and more, and it's being used more and more. So in 2016, I joined the significant project after 9 years of working with young working adults and another 7 years of working with youth in the junior college setting. So as I work with the present group of people, it could be from young adults, even youth, to people who are in their 60s. It's really a joy to see how God is using this resource to help them know who they are. First of all, to know who they are, and to know God's design, unique design of who they are, and also to clarify their life direction and life purpose. So from my own journey, which I've shared earlier, of discovering my own identity and vocation, becoming myself, I think this really has put me in a very privileged position to be helping and to journey with people in discovering their purpose and direction. So I want to share a video with us to help us understand what this resource is about and what is intent through that video. So Maggie, would you help us?
Now that I'm giving my children a good education and my wife a good household, what else am I looking for? What other reason is there to live?
I feel as though I barely have time to breathe. What more to think about the person I'm becoming?
I'm doing well in my work, and it pays me well. But why am I feeling unsatisfied?
I volunteer in my church and community, but it leaves me tired and frustrated. What am I doing wrong? Prepares me, and I can refocus my life. I can take steps to live intentionally even at this stage of my life.
I'm God's masterpiece. I celebrate whom God created me to be in this station of my life.
God is the source of my significance. A truly significant life begins with an intimate relationship with God.
I'm a man on a mission with God. A truly significant life participates in His plan to build up lives and to save the lost.
Well, this is really the heart of the project itself, to help people live significantly, beginning with knowing who they are, knowing how God designed them uniquely, knowing their worth, their identity, and their place and stations in life, and their destiny, their heritage of life. So this has really been a journey that has enriched the lives of many people. The verse that we will be anchoring, or the verse that anchors this whole project, is actually Ephesians 2:10. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them." I think really it's the joy to see how people begin to see how they are uniquely created and the work that God has prepared for them. And the journey of knowing themselves, becoming themselves, knowing who they are in Christ Jesus, their identity, and knowing their abilities, their strength, and how they can actually be living out their life in accordance to God's design. So this has really been the anchoring verse. And also this discovery journey is also about helping them to take action, to know how they can make a difference in the people's group or in the causes that they are passionate about. So this is really the journey that many people has embarked on. We started this journey about 2011, and right now we are coming to about 10 years in our journey, and we have about 3,000 over participants in Singapore itself. And this journey has really seen life change. And even as we look at how we can extend this program to the young people, we also have a seekers-friendly resource, which we want to introduce. So the Soaring and Quest is a seekers-friendly evangelistic resource. It's based similarly to the Significant Woman and the Man of Impact, but the way that it's being presented is a bit more is simpler, is to the point, but yet it still retain the essence of it. So let me share with you the principles and how it answers 4 key questions. So these are the 6 principles, and there are 4 questions that it answers. The first question it answers is who I am. It's a question about identity, who the person is, and what's the unique design of the person. The second question that we want to answer through the Soaring and Quest resource is, why am I here? The very reason for existence. And the third question we are answering is, where am I going? It is a direction question. And the last question that we are answering in the course is, how do I get there? So this course itself answers 4 questions. The first question is identity. The second question is about the reason for existence, which is purpose. And the third question is about direction. Where do I go? And we don't stop there. We help the young people take steps to live out their life direction according to their unique design to get to where they want to be from where they are right now. So this is a very structured program, and it's very clear in terms of the steps. So today's conversation is really about helping youth discover their life purpose and direction. And it begins with the journey of knowing themselves, who they are, their identity, and becoming more and more, living out their unique identity and what God has created them to be. So now I'll hand the time over to Joanne. As David has introduced, Joanne has a varied experience in both private and public sectors, and also right now in her role as a lecturer in various tertiary institutions. She brings with her a lot of experience, and also she has been in a way reunited with Crew Singapore, because she was involved in Crew Singapore in her tertiary days, and she's also right now involved with the Soaring program with us. So Joanne, would you share with us some of your valuable insight in working with youth?
Thank you, Ivan. I won't say my insights, but this is a journey that I myself have been through, and I want to share with you why this is so timely, and what's the reason why it is a very unique time in history where we want to understand why this seeking for purpose-driven. Some of you may remember Rick Warren's book, Purpose-Driven. And I also want to share with you research in the field. Some of you may be wondering, what's the basis of all these worksheets or ideas involved in the program? And you may also be wondering, is it just a Crew project? So let me just start off by, as a lecturer, I always like to be outcome focused and agenda focused. So this, just to share with you the structure of my, sharing. So this is me. You can see that part of the Soaring and Quest program is you get to work on your life statement, your life purpose, and this is mine. And to use many of the skills that I've picked up even from my secular work, my leadership coaching, to actually build kinder societies and to inspire, adults as we collectively build a sustainable society. And the agenda of the Collab to Reach is to listen, to discuss, and to create, okay? So let me just share firstly, who are we talking about? We have some people in the audience here, our participants. And use, by the way, the age group, for instance, let me just use the age group set by the UN World Health Report. I used to work with groups like the UN, and they are 15 to 24 years old. And interestingly, they fit into what we call Gen Z. Okay, so we are no longer talking about the Gen Ys or millennials. As you can see, Gen Ys or millennials are actually 25 to 39 years old. So it is not surprising that they are already in our workforce, right? So who are this group of people? Who are the young ones that we are talking about? Who are the youths? And if you think about it, they are about 15 to 24 years old. Some of them are in our tertiary institutions. Some of them are already entering the workforce. Some of them are interns in organizations. And what's very unique about our Gen Ys is that because of the onslaught of social media, they're constantly, and from media like Hollywood, they are constantly thinking about reinventing themselves. They are also an over-connected generation. And when we talk about tech connection, it is technology connection. It is one-way connection to the technology. Okay, not necessary to one another, but connected to the technology. And they face a lot of pressure. The pressure can come from everywhere. Let me just share with you some of the statistics. If you are interested, I know that just now, there was a lot of interest in the audience about your YouTube links. You see a QR code there. You can scan it and then you can get some of the reports that I'm referring to. So let me just take a look at the Pew Research Center of the US. Okay, look, mind you that the research was done in 2018 of US teens 13 to 17 years old. So very, very recent report, very recent surveys. It tells you and tells us something that we know already, that anxiety and depression is very top among issues that teens face today. And what is the pressure? So number one, surprisingly, American teens say that they face a lot of pressure to get good grades. Just this week, Straits Times in Singapore say that Singapore youths suffer from pressure about grades. So let me share with you, Singapore is not alone. Even in the US, teens are very, very concerned. So unlike what most of us think that their concern is in looking good and fitting in socially, they actually concerned about their grades as well. You can see here, 61% worry about that a lot. And one more thing that I'm sharing, which surprised a lot of people when I share this, is that actually your teens are concerned about having a job or career. So mind you, they are 13 to 17 years old and they are actually thinking about their career. A lot of parents that I talk to are not even aware of this. So let me just share with you, that in 2006, Howe and Strauss had similar findings. 70% when they, at that time, 2006, when they were looking at millennials, 70% of millennials were also very concerned about their job, whereas only 35% of adults think that they do. So what am I saying? I'm saying that there's a disconnect between adults and teens. And how much do we really understand our teens? The collab to reach agenda is to listen, and this is something I'm going to focus on, to listen and to discuss, and using the soaring framework, which Ivan listed just now. Who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? Using these questions to have meaningful discussions. And is this biblical for some of us who are on a spiritual journey? Let me just share with you, even from Ecclesiastes, to enjoy your work and accept your lot in life. It is indeed a gift from God. Let me just share with you a little bit more research. This is from University of South Carolina. Gen Zs and Gen Ys, they are indeed concerned, and their job is part of their personal identity, because Ivan was sharing who am I as part of their identity. And you see that this is very critical, and a lot of times older adults, especially parents, do not understand what our teens are going through. Let me just share with you, from my perspective, having worked with a wide range of age groups. I do teach at some of the universities in Singapore, and let me share with you my perspective when I look at Gen Z. And to me, they are so, they are very creative. You can see here a dedication to me in 2019 from a group of students. These are not the students that dedicating it to me, but they are doing fundraising, and they do fundraising by going from class to class to sing Valentine's Day songs. And someone anonymously in my class dedicated this Valentine's Day song to me. So you can see that your Gen Zs are so lovable. They are so creative. I mean, who would think of doing fundraising through singing Valentine's Day? But these are our Gen Z. Let me share with you another example of a maker culture that our Gen Z are going through. You know, in one of my coaching, my program teaching career counselors, they shared with me that their organization came up with an app which relies on something called an ATS, applicant tracking system, right? And if they had to use a consulting firm, an IT consulting firm, this project would have cost them 100,000. Instead, they got one of the interns from one of the universities that I teach. I met this young guy, and he did it in 3 months. How much did they pay him? The entire internship program. He did it on his own independently with, of course, inputs from his IT professors in the different university, in that respective university, right? So the professor kind of gave them information virtually, and he created this tool. And this is what I want to share with you. You are doing something right, parents. And when I look at this young man's profile, I know him, I met him, I linked up with him on LinkedIn. When I look at his secondary school and his polytechnic, he didn't come from the best secondary school. He came from a neighborhood school, and he came from a not even the best polytechnic. And today he can be doing things like that. So what I want to say is that our Gen Z, when you give them a purpose-driven project, I can't share with you, it's very confidential what this project was supposed to be. When you can share with them the purpose of the project, they can work independently. And they may not have had a very successful secondary school or even polytechnic background, because the way we judge them is through grades. And I'm going to share with you later the theory of well-being, which is that there is more than one criteria when we look at our young people and our youth today. Okay, so what I just shared, again, you can scan on We Forum. And this is what many people have found out, that Gen Z, they are maker culture. They're very good at experimenting. They're able to work independently. And interestingly, they also crave human interaction. I also was sharing with the team that in one of my classes was actually a virtual classroom. And I had students who tell me when they found out that I'm also teaching in the same university in the afternoon, face-to-face, they asked me, "Zhe, can I come down to school and meet up with you face-to-face?" And, you know, some of them, I shan't name the university, are what we call maths and physical science, program students, right? What you think of as logical, techie guys, and they want human interaction with adults. The key is that they need to trust us. Let me share with you and since the topic is on helping youths find purpose. Today, many organizations say, oh, you know, this young generation, they're also purpose-driven. And let me just share with you that they are supposed to do that somehow, right? And let me just share with you the research by social psychologist Erik Erikson. Erik Erikson, when this is not even new research, Erik Erikson, when he looked at what we call the age range that we are looking at, right, from 12, as you can see, are highlighted in the box there. In this age and life stage, they are looking at clarifying their identity. So when Ivan spoke just now about identity, who am I? It is indeed something that youths look at. And Erik Erikson found out when youths are not able to clarify who they are, or when they are pressured by adults to have an identity that they do not resonate with, what's going to happen is that they are going to explore negative identity. And when you pressure them too much to adopt the identity that you as adults believe in, they are going to rebel. And the inability to actually pursue or reconcile their role identity is going to lead to rebellion, negative identities, and confusion. Many of the issues that we see today. And at this life stage, two things that young people are exploring: sexual orientations as well as occupational interests. Yeah, and it is very important that they learn to seek and find and trust intimacy. And we're not talking about, we're also talking about having an affirmative community. Okay, so let me just try to stop share again. Okay, let me just try to do a few things right now. Let me do another, let me do another try to do another Mentimeter sharing. Okay. Okay, maybe let me just give you the screen code while I activate, or maybe Mac, can you help me with the second screen share? Yeah, thank you. So Mac has just put up another link. Okay, so can you click on to this link?
I also realized that the chat is also very quiet. At this point, if you have any question, I haven't checked out Pigeonhole. My guess is also as quiet. So if you can still input some questions over there. Back to you, Joanne.
Okay, thank you. And so let me just ask you, have there been any changes in your life in the past 6 months? Oh, okay. So some of us say no changes. Some of us, majority say yes. Okay, so what are some of the changes? Maybe we could use the chat box, David, and ask what have been some of the changes in your life in the past 6 months. Let's take a look. Oh, okay. Overwhelmingly, everyone says there's been changes in their life. Okay, so maybe I'll just thank you for the participation. And let me just take a look at the chat box. So what has been some of the changes that you experienced?
Everyone's very shy.
Everyone's shy. Okay. Okay. Maybe let me just get changes due to COVID, less face-to-face gatherings. Yeah, precisely. And actually I was going to do, thank you. Yeah, a lot of changes. Okay, coping with COVID, coping with work arrangements. Yeah, doing less. Oh yes, they're all coming in, preparing for newborn. Oh yes, thank you, Philip. Thank you everyone for your sharing. Work style. I think it's because chat has, they are very, very participative group here, David. It's a matter of, you know, Wi-Fi sharing. So thank you everyone for your sharing. And what am I trying to say? Okay, let me just move my screen. Is that many of us experience a lot of changes and a lot of stress. Some of them especially caused from COVID, some of them caused by work from home arrangements. And I was going to do voting to ask you for your opinion that, you know, work from home, telecommuting has been around. People talk about it for the last 15 years. What has been the biggest spur for companies to adopt work from home? And you have rightly pointed out it's due to COVID. And what am I saying? I'm saying that many of these changes are outside of our control. It's outside of our control. It is inflicted upon us. And let me just share with you more changes that are coming. That you are already facing, in fact, the onslaught of technology. Now, if you remember, and when we talk about, we all come from a spiritual journey and we are Christians. When you look at the Bible, let me just share with you that actually in the Bible, I counted, right? And with my rule of thumb counting, David, I counted 16 occupations in the Bible: farmers, vineyard tenders, stonemason, so many occupations that's listed, soldiers work, that as an occupation. When you look at today's, since our youth are very concerned about career identity and how their who am I fits into their career, you look at the changes that's happening from agriculture society to industry 1.0 to industry 2.0, the assembly line, your cars are made through assembly line, to industry 3.0, the computer. And today people talk about the Internet of Things. People talk about social media. So what am I saying is that there's just so much changes. And when you think of our youth, and sometimes we tell them, put down your handphone, and actually they are supposed to connect with their handphone. They are supposed to connect with technology, because the world they are going to live in is actually going to be controlled by technology. The other thing that I'm going to share, I want to mention, is also that the fact that in the past, especially during the agriculture phase, your work and your identity, your who you are, you have role models around you. You take the job of your father or your relatives, etc. You have big families. If your parents don't have time for you, your uncles, aunties, everyone chips in, right? But today, you can't do that. How do you learn how to do your job? How do you develop your role identity? You develop your role identity through mentors, and these mentors are your relatives. But today, your bosses, your mentors, and those in the audience are facing so much stress and so much anxiety. They got no time to mentor your young people. You look at Industry 1.0, steam engine, we talk about apprenticeship, craftsmanship. You train a young person for 10 years, then they take over their job. Today, there's no such thing. Today, your young people, as what I shared just now about my young person who developed an app that would have cost 100,000, they can do it at the go. And honestly, there's just so much pressure on them. And mentors at the workplace, please don't blame them. They really have no time to be mentoring your young people, because especially right now, they are all worried for their own jobs, that they may even be retrenched, right? So I for one, am very, very empathetic towards our youth. Let's look at Singapore's GDP. If you can see my slides, and you see that from 1960s to present, Singapore has been blessed with tremendous economic growth. We thank our leaders for that. However, economic growth does not equate to a positive happiness or positive well-being. That is actually going to cause even greater confusion. Yeah, so this is an age of unprecedented change and chaos. You are going to see what we call a bifurcation of technology. During the COVID, we saw people who made millions. Your statistics on Jeff Bezos made millions by the minute. And you have the other side of society, people whose jobs are being displaced. So you're just going to have just so much confusion going on that I hope I have shared with you that these questions on what it means for us. So key takeaway, speed of change. How do we help our youths navigate this new economy? How do we ourselves? So let me just say, while this talk is about youth, my personal takeaway is that every one of us benefit from this Soaring and Quest program. Every one of us, because all of us need this program. How can we tell the youth what they have to take this program when we ourselves have not tried it? Okay, so my first premise is always taste and see, try it, and see if it is helpful to you. I find it's very helpful, and so that's why I'm here, sharing with you my findings. So what we want to say is that there are new role models. Our youth need new role models. I always have parents. When I say parents, that's because I also coach leaders, right? And leaders are also parents. And the leaders tell me, my kid, they tell me they want to become a YouTuber. They want to be a YouTuber star. And is that surprising? It's not, because when they are constantly on the internet, that's the only role models they see. And when parents go home and parents talk about their work, What do they say? Oh, you know, they complain about their, I mean, sorry, parents, I sympathize with you. I share your same stress at the workplace. So our kids actually do not even know that our parents who are doing good work, who are working according to their purpose, our kids do not hear, our young people do not hear positive role models. They hear complaints, they look outside, and is it any surprise that it's a lot of doom and gloom? So maybe one of the first things, key takeaway, although it's not on this slide, is that, hey, you know, let's think about how we ourselves lead purpose-driven lives, even at the workplace, before we use this language. So myself, and as an educator, I will tell you my youths are my teachers. Later you'll see I talk about my R's, reverse mentoring. I learn so much from the young ones and the youths. They are my inspiration. So let me first share with you, you know, all this talk about calling, is it touchy-feely, right? Because I work with young people. I tell you, they're so smart. They ask the best questions. They ask insightful questions, right? Adults, we are very diplomatic. We don't ask. Young people, they ask good questions, okay? And sometimes you are stumbled, like, okay, I don't have an answer for it. So let me just share with you that interestingly, latest research, you can see 2020, Mercer, a HR consulting firm, talks about this for the, and they say, what is a calling? They say that, you know, this is, you can take a look at Mercer's report, the link there. When is a job a calling? Is when it has a meaningful purpose, again, code word, a compelling career, and it is a valuable job. And something that we saw from Erik Erikson's model just now is that it's very important for youth to feel respected, to feel that their role is reflected, because they want to be valued by society. That's how they are affirmed. Okay. However, Mercer has found out that only 8% of people today feel they have a calling. So many organizations today talk about purpose-driven organizations, because we have seen through 2 financial crises, David, we don't want to reveal our age, but we have seen at least 2 to 3 financial crises, right? Especially the 2008 financial crisis, that human beings left to pursue profit, disastrous consequences. Well, anyway, let me just talk a little bit more about the Mercer report. Mercer has found out that, for instance, in when we talk about the world of robots, etc., today a lot of transactional work is going to be taken over by robots. That's great. So what do we need to do to prepare our youth? And what is needed is that the jobs of the future are relational with high expertise. And a lot of that is internal work. As you can see, this is not my graph. This is a Mercer graph. You can see the arrows that I tried to point out, a lot of inner work. Okay, so what we need for the future, competencies for the future, hearts. That's what makes us human. Like my niece, my 15-year-old niece says, it's not soft skill, it's called real human being skills. Hearts, relational, relate to an affirmative community. And that's what the Soaring and Quest program help us build an affirmative community. Hits. Okay, so I was just going to share with you later a little bit more. Hence, let's leave it to the robots. Hence, transactional work, let's leave it to the robots. Let's focus on the real human being skills. Let me just share with you, you know, the words of a guru, a teaching guru, Parker Palmer, in his book, Let Your Life Speak, which is the focus of our discussion today, which is listen. And Parker Palmer says that your inner work is not touchy-feely. And David, you yourself have mentioned also in a very, very well-written article that you put on Thirst. I encourage everyone to read it. And David, you mentioned yourself that inner work is just as important. Time out for contemplation is just as important. It is called journaling, it's called meaning making. And as adults, this program, why are there so many questions? Who am I? Who's going to provide the answer? The answers are not the problem. Well, the answers are not the end game. In fact, let's resist quick fix, okay? Purpose is not found. Purpose is built upon. It is a clarification process. It is a loosening of the soil, which the agriculture society knows this. If you do gardening, you know that after a while, you need to loosen your soil. And this asking of questions, these 4 questions that the Quest and Soaring put up, they are what coaches know is called appreciative inquiry process. It's a filtering process. Asking them, being interested in our youth and say, you know, how was your day? What did you discover? And David, I'm going to share with you, if I have stories to share with you and illustrations, you know, I myself do not get, my youth don't tell me straight away. I give them a question, they don't give me an answer. Usually I get a blank stare, you know, and then you need to be very patient and ask them, what does this mean for you? Okay, if I may, let me just share with you a recent, you know, when I say recent, this is a year ago. Because of COVID, we can't have face-to-face interactions. I had a young man from university. So a young man, of course, you have finished NS, they're probably 21 years old. He came to me and say, you know, he needs some help to do, to think about what internship he should be doing. And I know that in Poly, he did diploma in logistics. So I said, okay, why don't you consider internship in logistics? And he gave me this blank stare. Young people are very, very polite in Singapore. When they give you a blank stare, it's not because they have nothing in their head, it's because they are too polite to tell you that that's a dumb question, right? So I know enough, I read their face and I say, okay, why don't we do a skills inventory? Let's look at your skill sets. Let's look at your values. And something which you will experience in the Quest and Soaring program is that they also go through skills. So I do a tactile kinesthetic game, which is a card sort. And when he went through the skill set, when he went through the skills and the values, at this time, I kind of turned to other students to help them. He came to me and said, okay, I want to be an economist. And I realized when I did the skill set, the card game, that actually there are so many skills I need to pick up. There are so many skills lacking. David, mind you, this did not come from me. This is me bringing him through this inventory. And one more thing I need to share with educators and youth workers is that I'm very proud when my youth come to me and challenge me and give me a different idea. So I told him logistics, right? He challenged me and said, no, actually I'm interested in being an economist. And I say, hey, well done. You found it on your own. I'm very proud when my youth improve on my ideas because I'm a cross-pollinator. I find that's like called jamming, you know? And we need to be that. We need to make sure as adults that we are not know-it-alls. And this is something I would say when we work with youth, we need to listen. Listen to ourselves, listen to them, okay? And let me just leave you with a quote from Parker Palmer to say, before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen. Listen for all the strengths embodied, listen to the aspirations and the hopes. Okay, so David, I'm not sure how am I doing for time, but yeah, I'm just waiting for Maggie to stop me. But just now when I was sharing about the Mercer study, you notice that Mercer says that, 9% or 8% of people have a calling. Mercer doesn't say what a calling is. Unfortunately, they didn't explain how you can get there. Maybe you should engage Mercer and they will help you. But let me assure you that that the coaching, the program, Soaring and Quest do have some work on that. And Parker Palmer in Let Your Life Speak says that discovering a vocation is not scrambling towards a prize. It's not saying that I want to be the top banker. I want to be the top person. It's actually accepting the treasure that we ourselves already possess. Vocation does not come from a voice out there. Many of us think that it's a voice out there calling me, like a siren, like a bell calling me. It's not. The call comes from inside of us, And this voice inside of us calls us to the person I was born to be, to fulfill the original selfhood given at birth. You know, today's science is only beginning to understand. When we talk about uniqueness of every individual, we sound so, what we call, superfluous. Oh, you're so unique, and then we don't mean it. When you go to the airport today, right? biometric, you have to do the biometric to get through the airport. That's the toughest level of security. You go to China, they are so clever. They know you can even fake your thumbprint. They require you to have 10 fingerprints. That shows you that even all your 10 fingerprints are unique. Not only that, your iris, AI today is beginning to affirm many things that we understand, I want to share with you that these questions is what we call inquiry sense-making process. It doesn't provide you the answer. The questioning itself is already very enlightening. Okay, the asking of questions and the seeking. And for those of us in the audience who are mothers, you are very concerned about what MOE says. Let me just assure you that MOE also thinks it's super important. And I went to the MOE website and I saw MOE 21st Century Competencies. You can see right at the core is this thing called self-awareness, self-directed learner. Okay, what is self-awareness and what is self-consciousness? Self-consciousness is like me when I usually, when I'm at recent event 2 years ago, I find myself seated beside a very important person. So I was seated beside, let's say, the CEO of HSBC. Self-consciousness is when I say to myself, my inner critic says to myself, who am I? I'm like a nobody, and what do I say to this CEO of HSBC? Self-consciousness is not what we are seeking for. Self-awareness, on the other hand, is understanding my strength, understanding what I'm called to do. And what I'm called to do is to reach out to adults, especially young people, in career coaching, to look at people's strengths. And so when I look at the CEO of HSBC, what I say to him, I say, Guy, you are a CEO of a bank. A lot of my young people, my master's student, my undergrads, they want to be in financial institution. What advice do you have for me so that I can pass to them, right? So self-awareness is bringing the focus away from me to the larger purpose that I'm serving, the adults that I want to build up. And interestingly, I wasn't expecting this answer. Guy was just telling me, and Guy is a father of 2 sons, and he says that tell your young people they should focus on their strength. Surprise, right? I thought he would be saying things like, oh, work on your numbers, pick up AI, take up data coding, take up Python, Java, etc. No, he says focus on your strength because there are so many positions in a financial institution. Interestingly, although I don't want to say too much, his 2 sons are not bankers. And that shows that this is, he has recently retired as chairman of HSBC as well. Yeah, so that's why I feel confident sharing his story. This reflective process, by the way, is a 21st century emerging competency that MOE talks about. MOE has this thing called critical and inventive thinking. And they say that reflective thinking, or what we call sense-making of the chaos that's around us, and that differentiates us from robots. So I don't want to share too much about the program because there'll be injustice to the depth of the program. But I want to assure you that many of the foundations, and because many of my work is rooted in psychology, that a lot of the principles covered in Soaring and Quest are actually built on research, and be rest assured on that. Okay, so this is just to show you, those of you who need me to show you control before, after, I can show that to you. Okay, so let me just share with you outside of Singapore, William Damon, who is a professor at Stanford University and director of Stanford Center of Adolescence. He says that our quest for purpose is an intention to accomplish something meaningful to self. And that's why the personal inquiry process is important. You cannot tell your young ones, you cannot tell them. The moment you tell them, it's no longer meaningful to them. And it must be meaningful and it must be useful to the world and the self and the world at large. Okay, so it is not ruminations. And I'll just share with you another story. And another example that we found out from doing Mentors Hub. You know, we had a young lady, and she went through the life purpose statement, and she said that, well, she wants to work with people who have a body image issue. And in our small breakout session, David, one of her concerns to me was, how does that relate to work? Yeah, because she's a university student, right? How does that relate to work? So I kind of shared with her that, yes, actually it can be, because, you know, today many organizations like Facebook, Google, etc., many companies, they have they have programs where they provide food for their employees as you know, attraction benefits, and you can pick up a job in that. You can also work in hospitals. Hospitals have nutrition program, and you know, so you can be part of a HR. You can be part of hospitals. So HR program under nutrition. I've seen you know, job postings on that. And she came up on her own later. Many minutes later, she says that, oh, okay. So she now feels more confident of pursuing a diploma in nutrition science, okay? Postgrad diploma, right? And maybe pursue along the path of HR. She also shared something that was quite shocking to all of us, but affirming to all of us. She was actually on a mentoring program, and Soaring and Quest is part of this mentoring program. And she was actually supposed to be assigned to a mentor. And she said that she was actually so afraid. Before the Soaring and Quest module, she was so afraid to meet her mentor because she doesn't know what to say to her mentor. You know, many companies or many programs have mentoring programs, but you don't know how worried our youths are, because a lot of these conversations, you know, the youths are afraid that, you know, they're going to a session where the adult is going to tell them, talk about my past, talk about my glory days. And let me assure you that purpose-driven is not about rumination. It's not about us talking about our glory days. It is the youth. Our focus must be on the youth. It must be a positive, structured scaffolding process where our youths make meaning themselves. Okay, so if your youth comes up with a better idea than what you came up with, you should be happy. Okay, so this is something that as adults we must learn. I think it's more what we need to do to ourselves. Okay, so let me just pause here. Yeah, okay, so try reverse mentoring, earn your right. I remind this myself. have not arrived. Every day my youth, I would say every day, I don't teach every day, but on days that I'm with them, they are my mentors. They teach me so much, right? And when they teach you, let's say technology especially, thank them, affirm them and say, wow, you know, I didn't know that. Yeah. And earn your right to give counsel, to give advice, and help them uncover some of their limiting beliefs. I don't have time to do that, but in the program, Ivan and Sharon will share more with us. And let me just make sure that, yeah, let me just pause here and yeah, you know, hand this back to you because we want to hear more from Ivan and Sharon later, David.
Wow, you're doing a good time, Joanne. There is a question from Chloe. She asks, what is considered a compelling career? Just wondering whether you want to take that question.
Chloe, yeah, compelling career is what pushes you on. And I cannot tell you, as what I hope my sharing so far has been, I cannot tell you what is a compelling career. Compelling career is something that is inside of you. Later, I'll share with you my model, which is finding out your identity, finding out your, what we call your VIPs, your value, your interests, your personality, your skills. Understanding all that, and I have a model. So David, can I take that question later with Chloe? And that's a great question, Chloe. Thank you. And you will allow me to share with you the framework I use. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. There's another question from Pigeonhole. It received 1 vote. The question is, it may be or may not be related. While the focus on this sharing is on helping youths discover what can we do to help youths rediscover. Some may have fallen away or strayed from the Lord. How can we guide them? I think it's a very, very good and layered question. Whether Joanne, Sharon, or Ivan, any one of you can also chip in. I'll post that question to Sharon. Sharon, do you have any input to this question?
Okay. Yeah, I think it is really a very relevant question, and I know that many adults are really concerned also about youths and their own walk with God. So for Soaring and Quest, okay, it is actually geared more towards the non-Christians. So there won't be as much biblical content, but for the significant women and men of impact, okay, one of the goals for doing this resource, right, is that we want to help people connect back to God. Yeah, so you find that you cannot actually discover who you are without discovering who God is. I think it is only when we know God, we know His design for us, His purpose for us, then we can really find, our own purpose. Yeah, so for, the significant women and men of impact, we do have, portions of it where we actually emphasize their own walk with God. Yeah, so I hope that would really be able to help our youth as well.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. We hope we have answered the question. And of course, before introducing them to a program, there's always that relationship, and that really what Joanne shared about. Listen, do not talk down, do not focus on talking about your glory days. I think that is a good tip. And subsequently, there are very good principles that we can learn from the Soaring and Quest program that we can use to apply in our day-to-day timely conversations with our youths. Florence asked the question, what is a good age for youths to do the significant woman? Great question. Ivan, do you have significant woman? Yeah, so Sharon, do you have an answer to that?
It's okay. I can also answer because Ivan has been helping us a lot as well. Well, I think they can be from, like late teens onwards, maybe 18 onwards, but we also have people who are, like 15, 16-year-olds who are doing soaring. Yeah, so it's really interesting because when we started off doing significant women and men of impact, we actually started off with a lot of people from 40 years upwards, okay, be interested in the program. But increasingly, we are seeing more and more younger people in their 20s, even people in their late teens doing the program. And I find that it's okay, for teenagers to do it. In fact, it is really good for people to start right. So people in their, people who are a bit older, they want to do the program because they want to finish well. They want to know that they're on the right track. But for younger people, I feel that when they are starting out, it is really a good time for them to really discover who they are, for them to know their core values and what is their purpose so that they are really off on the right track, instead of like, making these detours, halfway through. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, back to you, Joanne. Or Joanne, do you want to take a question first before we lose that question? There's a question in the chat.
You can hear me, right? I can't really see Mariana, but I thought I'm going to take Mariana's question. Mariana says that, what about a uni student who is not assured of their career and calling, lost the dream to pursue her dream job due to the high school decision and placement system? Mariana, I hear you. And, I don't know whether you are a youth yourself or you are the uni student that we are talking about, or whether you are a youth worker. And let me share with you that I've seen so many. We want to also affirm our youths. And what's the best way to affirm them is to tell them that there are alternative measurements of success. I have seen myself, I was also discouraged. I've seen, what I didn't share with you just now because of time about the young man who pursued his logistics diploma was that during his internship, he had a horrible experience, and which is why he gave me that blank look, because he didn't know whether he should be complaining to me, right? And these are people who have been disillusioned. I have seen young people who are disillusioned because they didn't get to the course, or they got to a course because they were pressured by their parents to do accountancy, IT, law, which they absolutely hate. So we have seen a lot of this. Now, I will just share with you a story from the Bible, which is Elisha. And when one of the prophets lost their axe head, Elisha told the prophet, go back to where the axe head has fallen. And so we need that process. We need to go back to, so if you have a youth worker, or you have a young person who is disillusioned, go through the process with them to know that, and later I'll share with you a theory of well-being, which is that there is no single measurement of success. And today, for instance, last time, right, if you fail Mandarin, you cannot go to university. Today, we don't have these systems anymore. Today, there's just so many avenues for us to pursue, and so many yardsticks of measurement of success. It's not the best PSLE grades, as I shared with you about the young man who actually came up with this ATS system. He didn't go to the best secondary school. He didn't go to the best polytechnic either. To young youth workers, let me just assure you, I can be so assured today because I have over the span of 30 years seen people who come back, and later Ivan and Sharon are going to share with you this longitudinal study, because we have two examples of people, and because they journey, their supervisor implement Soaring and Quest at the workplace. So we have seen over 3 years how people who do not excel academically today are fulfilled individuals. Okay, so Mariana, if you will allow us participate in the program, go where the axe head is fallen, and most importantly, affirm this young person. Yeah, affirm them that there are more routes to success than what we originally known. We already know. Yeah, we know so little to what is in store for us. Maybe just may share something. The Bible talks about renewing our minds. Today we know this thing called neuroplasticity of the brain. Science is catching up. Science is catching up. Let me just say that.
Joanne, I saw this question someone asked in Pigeonhole, and it received 3 votes, and it's linked to your first half of your presentation. It asks, how do we motivate youths to consider their vocation or purpose when the youth presents himself to be uninterested or unmotivated?
Yeah. So as I shared from the Erik Erikson model, this disinterest is usually because when they were younger, they were not affirmed. We get that in our class a lot. I sometimes, and this is not, we don't have time to discuss. We can have another platform to discuss this issue. Even at the university level, the top tier universities, we also have youths who appear disinterested. When you work, when you affirm them and you sound empathetic and they trust you, you realize that somewhere along the line, they have been told that they do not measure up. And that's a sign of showing you that I defy your model of success. So that rebellion, that boredom is, so that actually requires a lot of counseling work. And that's a very different platform. Yeah, it's a very good question. And you may want to work with social workers depending on how serious the issue is. But I would say what we can do is affirm them. Sometimes they may even be in families of abuse. And we'll say that if you're in a family of abuse, then remove yourself from that abuse. Yeah, this program then is not the right stage for you at the moment. More serious interventions need to be taken. Let me just share with you something else. During COVID, I was in one of the IHL's Institute of Higher Learning that I was participating in. They invited the CEO of IMH, Institute of Mental Health, to give this talk about mental health. And we all know that during COVID, we saw in the newspaper that when COVID first started, was it 700 or 7,000 phone calls a day? You know, his first reaction was, you know how overworked his social workers are? What he did was time out. He had to rotate his social workers. So there are different measures, there are different tools for different people. And we need to have more serious conversations on what is the problem the youth is facing. And my concern is also for youth workers. Youth workers, you are doing good work. Let me affirm you. You do not see the results of what you are sowing. And I hope your bosses are affirming you. And we need to do that. Yeah, bosses, supervisors of youth workers, please affirm them, please give them time out, please let them know before they see the fruits of their labor that they are taking care of our future leaders. Thank you.
Good. Over back to you, Joanne, for the next half of the presentation.
Thank you. I need to manage my time because I also need to know when I should stop sharing the meat of the presentation, which is Ivan and Sharon's sharing. So Maggie, please stop me when I'm not doing good time. Okay. So let me just share with you this poem by William Stafford. Yeah. Which is when we look at a river, especially cold countries will know, on top you see ice. And actually, you know, a lot of life goes on inside a river that's deep inside that we don't see. And those of us who deal with fishery and aquaculture, you know that even in a river, there are so many layers, there's so many depths of life and different forms of life, things going on, current, one important thing that we can do as human beings is to listen and affirm to each other. And some of us, I noticed from the questions that some of us in this audience are actually Christian-based. So let me just share with you that in John 10:10, Jesus said that I came that they may have life. Zoe, and what is this life? This life is about physical, it's about spiritual life, it's about vitality, and to have it abundantly. So let me just share with you a theory of well-being that is presented by what we call the father of positive psychology, Martin Seligman. And Martin Seligman has been a psychologist for many years. He was actually trained, you know, in what we call Freud's psychology theories, and he realized that a lot of psychology in the past is about doom and gloom. A lot of things we talk about is just so negative, and he found out that you know, some things can be changed. Like for instance, optimism. We can learn to be optimists, and this is something that he presented. And you know, a lot of you see that about this time of the year, many countries release some survey called happiness index. Yeah, you will have seen this in the newspaper. That's because about September, these results, and Singapore's happiness index is quite low, right? And what is not spoken of is that happiness is a mood. And countries like Finland, they score very well because, not because they're very happy, but because embedded in happiness, especially for the Nordic countries which are so cold, is this element of resilience and mental strength and mental tolerance. And Martin Seligman comes up with this thing called the theory of well-being, an alternative to view success as just economic success, a measure of how worthwhile you are, your value. Yeah, you remember Mercer's theory, valuable job. That's the world's, and even private sector today realize that men pursuing profit is what you're gonna get, climate change. Yeah, let's talk about it another time. So this is called the Perma Model, and it stands for positive emotions, engagement, relationships, affirmative relationships, meaning and accomplishment. And let me just, and he doesn't use health because he realized that sometimes people can go through poor health, but still have well-being, still have a sense of well-being. And just like I mentioned about about learned optimism, and he has some practices for that. And life satisfaction is, of course, sometimes measured by positive emotions, which is mood. I feel happy. But what's very interesting is that the other elements of happiness or mood-based, it is not based on your feelings at the moment. Okay, and even when we talk about positive emotions, interestingly, we know this thing called the gratitude journal, giving thanks, and they've even carried out experiments to see that when you help someone focus on the positive, they do and do good for other people, they actually do feel better. The second is engagement. This is where you need to look at your strengths, your interests, etc., which we call flow in psychology. And this is understanding your strengths, your skills, what you like to do. Interestingly, when you are engaged in your flow, you actually do not feel happy. You actually, are not feeling a sense what we call the mood happiness. But it is only after that where you feel satisfied that you accomplished something. Yeah, so especially for youths that are troubled, etc., it is a need to get them to look at some areas where they can be doing well and to actually focus on those areas. The conversation takes very long. Sometimes you get blank stares, but you must be patient. You must show them that you believe in them and you're not giving up on the conversation. Yeah, the worst is, and another adult will say, you're not affirming me by replying to me. Don't give me that face. Don't say things like that, right? So affirm them, stay in the conversation. We call this Toyota's 5 whys. Why? Be interested even though they give you a blank face, okay? Because engagement, getting them to build on their strengths takes time. And they may not even know that at the moment, okay? Next is affirmative relationships. As we talk about, a lot of times the youth that you're working with, they do not have affirmative relationships in their life. Sometimes these adults are well-meaning. Let me give you an example. I see this even in my university. Young woman at the end of the program comes to me because trust has been built. We teach very big classes, right? So they don't have this one-to-one. So they build this trust, they come to you and she told me, I did accountancy, but I really hate accountancy. My parents want me to do that. What do you want to do? She says, I want to help people. And the parents say, that's not great because you won't be able to feed yourself by helping others. So that shows you that sometimes there are some conversations that adults are well-meaning. Parents are great adults, right? Obviously very well educated. They mean well for them. But the child feels so lost. And of course, for me, this is my profession. I will work with them on alternative careers where they can satisfy their parents and themselves and work on something meaningful. Yeah, relationships, learning how to connect with each other, even with their classmates. How do they even have affirmative relationships at the classes? We always teacher talk, right? Teacher and student. So we need to involve interactions where the young people can interact with one another and affirm each other, build each other's relationships, okay? And then meaning. So we have mentioned meaning is actually serving something bigger than yourself, and meaning is sense making. They have to make sense that it is meaningful to them. It's not necessarily meaningful for the adult, like the accountancy example I shared with you. Meaningful for us, but not meaningful for the young one, right? They have to find that what they are doing is meaningful to them, and only conversations can reveal to you. Okay, so that's why you always hear me say, listen, discuss. Yeah, the framework that David, you have set for Collect to Reach, which is just so insightful. And the last one is accomplishment. Now, we can play to win and we can cheat to win. Accomplishment is more than just winning. Accomplishment is about mastery, understanding your skill set and then picking up your skill set and growing. It's about learning autonomy, learning to work independently. And very importantly, when they fail, don't tell them, oh, I told you so. They listen to me lah, see what happened? No, because when they fail, failure is part of learning, right? They learn resilience and they learn grit. And it's better for them to fail at small little projects and trust you and share with you. And then we ask them, so what's the learning point that we can get out of this session? Myself, I will tell you, sometimes people ask me, oh, as a trainer, do you make typos? Do you say the wrong word in class? I will do that all the time, right? Or my students laugh at me when I pronounce, I was just trying to tell them serendipity and I pronounce the word wrongly, and a young person laugh at me in my class. And I look at the other 49 in the class and I say, if I get embarrassed, they are going to look at me. So instead, I look at him and say, yeah, that's why I need you in the class to help me when I cannot pronounce this word. And immediately the trust is built with the rest of the 49. Yeah, instead of me saying that, hey, I am the professor here, I'm the know-it-all, right? Yeah, so don't do things like that. They will laugh at you. And when we show that we are willing to fail, of course, be prepared. First thing is be prepared, yeah? And when we fail, then they will take us, what we share seriously. I also share something like growth. There is a model called growth model. As long as they're moving positively towards growth, then assure them, okay? So a lot more to share, but I know that I want to get to Chloe's question and, meaning. And Viktor Frankl says then that meaning Viktor Frankl is the well-known psychologist who survived the Holocaust. And, people who died at the Holocaust and people who survived, and he found that those who found meaning in what they're doing, even meaning in suffering, actually became mentally more resilient. And he has this to share that actually meaning can be discovered through three avenues: creating something, doing something. So get them to be experimenting, doing something in their area of strength, get them to experience. It could be talking to other people, other mentors, other friends you have, and other role models in the office. So sometimes we talk about, why do we want to bash our leaders? When we are bashing our leaders in front of our kids, by the way, that's not being very helpful. That's not teaching critical thinking. When we bash our leaders in front of our young people or bash our colleagues in the office, actually we are creating a culture of negativity, and they really become very disillusioned with negative role models. Yeah, and actually to know that, resilience is something that our youth needs. So I just want to be a bit mindful of time. I'm so sorry, Maggie, what time do I stop? Okay, maybe let me just skip quickly to this model that I was sharing with Chloe just now. So Chloe, this is for you. And David, we both agree that you talk about end result. A lot of times, I do agree though, process is important. I'm a very process-driven person, just like you. So let me affirm you by saying that process is important. And we've both found out that end result is also important. So impactful living rather than intentional or incidental living. So this is a framework I use when I do coaching. And I also want to share this thing with youth workers. Your youth is not necessarily going to sit down with you for 7 weeks to go through the program. When you digest this is something that I do all the time. I find what we call teachable moments, or what we call coachable moments, and use it in our everyday opportunity. Don't expect them to sit down with you like me. My youth sit down with me. They always think, oh, it's so easy to work with young people. Sit down with you because you're the teacher. You will mark them. Don't forget, today is a very different. Lecturers get evaluated as well. So we need to find coachable moments. So this is a framework I use. Number one, identity. I've been using this model for 20 years. Sorry, I just revealed my age. And I use what we call the 4 I's identity. As I mentioned just now, later I'll give you a link to try, how do you find your value, your identity, your personality, and your skill set. There are a lot of tools out there, but don't need to seek. Anyway, coaching and soaring is available for you, okay? Sometimes you also need to do a reality check. Although I'm good at this, does the world out there, is it willing to pay me an income? We need that income to survive. And many times the kind of jobs that we do, as I mentioned just now, is impacted by trends like COVID, Industry 4.0. At the same time, we also need to see that our youth need to be inspired. Actually, it's not just youth, all of us need to be inspired. And if if you're not inspired, if we don't have a community that inspire us, we're going to be very drained and burnt out. Burnout is very, very real. Good people doing good work can be burnt out. Yeah. Again, not to do any promotion, very insightful sharing that David did in the first blog. So go read about it, it's real. So we need to inspire our young people and at the same time, help them identify that what the world needs, sometimes the world may not want to pay you for this. So a synergy, a compelling career, or a calling is obviously when all four. So the valuable career that Mercer talks about is, of course, an income, a reality check. So they have a 3-circle Venn diagram. I have a 4-circle Venn diagram, which is actually looking at where the four come together. Okay. So let me later show you the values model. Why is it, so let me just want to touch a little bit of something that Ivan and Sharon are going to share later, which is the who am I? And one of the VIPs is what we call values. Why is it important to help our youth understand their values? Don't preach it to them, no preaching. Is that when our youth find out their values, then they have the solitude to not parrot what peers are saying. Today, you know, in the US, they talk a lot about social dilemma. Watch it on Netflix. Sorry, don't watch other things. Just watch this to know how fearful social media is. And they want to flow with their peers, right? They want to flow with their peers. So we need to help them to set boundaries so that even when their peers do not affirm them, they can stand independently. I have a lot of stories to share on this, on how the coaching and soaring program, the soaring and quest program can actually help our youth set boundaries without us preaching to them, okay, and help them navigate a world of diverse views. Okay, so this is mine, as you can see. Just now I shared with you the Perma Model. Martin Seligman also has a free tool called the Values in Action Model, and there's a QR code in there. You can scan it and do the tool for free. Otherwise, don't need to, because when you come to Soaring and Quest, there is also a framework there. Okay, you can see mine is spirituality, love for learning, gratitude, perspective. I like to bring different perspective to different groups. I also like to hear from different perspectives, and hope is one of them. When I do this, you can see also that there are 24 strengths and some that I'm neglecting, like zest, humor, and creativity. David, you're so good at it. You are very, you know, we don't have time to hear you speak, but you are a very witty person. So that's something that my next year, that's a strength that I want to work on, okay? So lastly will be to co-create with our youth, which is, you know, what we can do, convey our own sense of purpose. A lot of us, we do purposeful work, we do good work, but we don't talk about it. And our youth only get role models from the social media, yeah? And I go through this program, of course, I'm very happy to say that I'm paid to teach coaching, to do coaching. And I see this as, you know, an alignment. The Okinawans call it the ikigai, or the French call it your raison d'etre. We call it, you know, purpose. I'll be honest with you, I do get discouraged as well. And I'm so blessed that I have a positive community to affirm me and to walk with me in this journey. And I sometimes catch a glimpse, because I've been this for a very long time, I catch a glimpse of young people who come back and thank me. And that's really, for me, the reward. But I tell you, we don't always see that. We don't always see that. And that's not necessary, because I want to affirm you right now, youth workers, you are doing good work. You are doing good work. Thank you. That's all for my sharing, David.
Thanks, Joanne. That's really, really insightful.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a question. What advice will you give when working with youths to help them discover their purpose and direction?
You know, I have something called 4 R's, and you know, which I try to remind myself. First one I mentioned to you, which is called reverse mentoring. Learn from them. Try to relate to the youth. And the first thing that it's very important. Trust is very important to be built. I've shared with you my framework, and respect of the youth is very important. Before you can even build trust, nobody will listen to you. Today, as a lecturer, I tell the truth, the internet has more information than me. Before my youth will even want to listen to me, they must know that I am able to be trusted. Okay, so so that is a very firm foundation that you need to build on, and then you need to, understand that the reflective process itself is the gift. The reflective process is the gift. The journaling, the journey that affirmative community is going to walk through you through with the Soaring and the Quest program. And let me just share with you many of the tools that Ivan and Sharon are going to share with you. They have been around for a very long time, but they are very expensive. They're costly, right? It's very, and now with the Soaring and Quest, you are having facilitators that are very, very qualified, but doing this pro bono, and which is why it's very affordable, because you have affirmative people who believe in their purpose, who believe that the world needs it and going to walk with you on the journey. So let me just, as a final word, say that purpose is not found. It is not quick fix. It's not that today you do this program, tomorrow you're okay. It's not. There's nothing in this world that's like that. It is a journey, and it is something that we need to work on it, and we need to discover ourselves, moment by moment. So it is a journey, it's not a destination. You're not going to have a map. It is actually a GPS system to help our youth navigate those situations, those chaotic situations that they're going to find themselves, right? It is the saying that teach them to fish and not fish for them. The saying is still so relevant today. So the last point I want to say is relevance. Whatever you say must be very relevant to a young person, to their worldview. And when we speak, we talk about our values must be in action, must be relevant when they see us as role models. Are we modeling that kind of behavior? So that's it for my sharing, David. I'm so grateful. Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for your very wonderful questions. As I always tell my students, your questions, if I can't answer them, make me a better instructor, because I go back and think about it, and then I learn how to answer you better the next time. So thank you for putting the time to even think of the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Pei Mui, and she has very, very wisely put the 4 R's. And let me just copy them so that I can put them on my blog as well. I have a blog. If you want to have more discussions, I have a blog called joannekoosg.com, where I share views, and you can share your views with me. Thank you. Thank you, Pei Mui. Thank you, David.
Yes, thank you. I also lead a bunch of 21-year-olds and mentor them, and they call me the boomer, and I try not to get very offended whenever they call me boomer. Yeah, so, and I recognize that age really is not a barrier. Actually listening, being there for them, they appreciate it. So they can make fun of me, say, oh, you're just old, you don't know. But at the end of the day, when I'm available for them, that trust is really being built. And I don't mind being, so I will self-jest myself. Okay lah, boomer is talking once in a while. Good. Thanks, Joanne. Let's refer to the pigeonhole. Let's see whether there's any more things to answer. Okay, first question. Hi, Joanne. I've learned much about interacting with Gen Z throughout your slides. Will you be able to give us a summary of interacting with them to get their engagement and ideas? So how do you engage them and get their ideas? I think it's really the soft skill of trying to draw out the best in them. How do you do that? Beyond the 4 R's, Joanne.
Okay, oh, that's a very difficult question to summarize. Let me just share. I wish I can do a lot of share screen with you. How do I get their ideas? Am I hearing you correctly? I just share with you something from my recent class. Today technology is a very useful tool, but you must be prepared for this. So I use so because of COVID, I like to start my class. So I teach this. Let me just show you an irrelevant topic called strategy, business management in a global context, which is teaching them strategy. You'll be shocked, right? Because of COVID, we had to reduce the class size to 49. I will, before COVID, I will actually go to them and ask them for their views and get them to share. And we can't do that now. So I use Mentimeter. And initially, when I start the classes, first time you meet them is very critical. I get my youth to do, I want them to say, for instance, COVID, what have you been doing, right? I want them to talk about Netflix. I want them to think about positive. I want them to think that even during COVID, some businesses were doing well, and why. So I asked them this question. So your icebreaker question is very important. You need to put time to think of your icebreaker question. So my icebreaker question was, what were you doing during COVID? And then they'll tell me, then I will say that, can you think of companies that are doing well during COVID? And they come up with all the names that I never heard of, Lululemon, etc., etc. Then I go and Google, right? Oh, okay, there's this company that sells yoga tights. They'll tell me e-commerce, etc. So it comes out from them. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. Although I teach about e-commerce, or I teach about supply chain, the answer did not come from me, it came from them. You must be prepared for them. You give them a right to interact. Now, you must also be very prepared. Like recently when I did this Mentimeter, suddenly all kinds of weird questions come in. They want to have fun with you, right? So there are all kinds of answers, especially when you do word cloud. You must maintain your cool. They are looking at you and see how you behave. So that's how I engage my youth. As I mentioned to you, you have to think through how you want to curate that session and think of icebreakers to get the answer out of them. So recently, another question I posed, which I wanted them to think about cameras and to say that the Japanese are the biggest camera manufacturers. I put a Mentimeter. I tell you, I was so shocked by the answers, you know. They are so good. They come up with examples because they can Google on the internet. So I tell them, you Google on the internet, find for me. And I'm teaching them actually research skills as well. And they come up with so many examples, and some of them were not relevant. Then I will circle it and say, that's a very good answer. For instance, they were able to come up with a company called GoPro. And I said, oh, I found out that it's an action camera. Oh, we will do that on another day. So I will say that you mustn't embarrass your youth. Firstly, you start small, do polling questions that everybody can do, right? They can just, use technology, and then you need to have one-to-one. As I mentioned to you, I like to talk to my students, and I talk to them, engage, okay, safe distancing, I need to measure, and safe distancing. They slowly will come down to the lecture room and talk to you. During break time, I will go and talk to them, speak to, oh, so how are you? How's your day? Then they'll ask me a question that they will never ask, put up their hand and ask in class. You must go to them. Sorry, I need to, my answers are not like, you know, I'm such a natural. I tell my students I'm an introvert, by the way. So you have to go to them, and you have to show them you want to build the relationship. Even if they push you away, you cannot show that you are afraid of building a relationship.
So Joanne, just curious, and because Pigeonhole has one question that has received no votes, but I feel it's actually quite interesting, is how do you deal, or how do you handle a youth or young adult who tells you that his passion is really gaming? Yeah, and then we know a lot of us will gaming.
Oh, sorry, David, I don't understand that question. What's wrong with why is that wrong? Why
so
is having a career in gaming wrong?
It's probably asking from the angle of a parent. So if a child tells you they feel great playing games and just want to be an e-gamer, I really don't know how to affirm that. I worry that he will just want to play game and not study.
I personally think it's okay. I personally think it's okay. And as I mentioned before on the YouTuber example, I will affirm that and say, yeah, okay. And now actually, that's also because me, right? This is me, I'm not faking it. I really believe that skills they pick up as an e-gamer, yeah, so maybe skills like collaborating with other people when you are trading weapons, you are learning negotiating skills, maybe watch out for that. And there's an example of the CEO of Razer who tells you that actually he was a gamer himself. So maybe it's my perspective. I try to then think about, I say, oh yeah, interesting. Let me go and research what an e-gamer does. And today there are careers that actually a person can do as an e-gamer. Yeah. And they learn negotiating skills. They know how to collaborate virtually. Ivan has a story of how, I won't steal his thunder, but how a nephew who works in e-gaming later apply it to other areas of research. So we need to start from affirming them and seeing as adult how that can be relevant. So sorry, adults, you have to live in the world of the young people. You have to update your skills. I tell lecturers that talk about Lee Iacocca and Chrysler, etc., your old textbooks, young people will tune off. You see that you're not relevant to their world. I don't know their world, to be honest. I need to live in their world, and I ask them to teach me. So yeah, sorry, I don't see why being an e-gamer is wrong. Oh, you know, esports, by the way, is now going to be an Olympic game. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Olympics game is considered, esports is considered recognized as sports by Olympics community. Okay, so we need to be in touch. We are the ones that need to be in touch. Sorry. I am, yeah. Well, to be honest, if your question is, have you had rebellious youth? Yes, I have. As I mentioned to you, I have walked this journey. I'm not like this from day one. And I take a approach of humility that, you know, I need to learn. I'm so sorry. Maybe I didn't engage you well enough the last time. Let's try again. I've not been, sometimes you can't say that face to face. You know, as Christians, we believe in prayer. And maybe I pray silently, I send a blessing to that person and say, I didn't engage this person well enough. Yeah. So I am not speaking to you from a position of strength. I'm speaking to you from the position of somebody who has learned and walked this journey and still learning. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And I'm sure that if you have more questions, you can still put them in the chat because Perma is there, very excited to also answer your questions also. So now we'll move on to the next segment of our today's workshop, which is to invite Sharon and Ivan to just give us an overview on how they help people discover life significance and purpose. So we'll begin with a question to Sharon. Sharon, how have soaring and quest been useful to help youths discover their purpose and direction?
Okay, thanks, David, for that question. Well, I think before we can actually help youths think about their purpose and their life direction, I think we have to first answer the foundational question of who I am. Yeah, because I think before going to, thinking about what I can do with my life, I think they need to be able to answer, like who I am and whose I am, the question of identity. Yeah, for example, I have this young graduate who was in my Significant Women class last year, and she was actually struggling with body image. Yeah, so she shares that, as a young girl, right, she actually was very afraid of mirrors. Yeah, so she's so afraid of looking into the mirrors, right? Because she is fearful that what she sees in the reflection, right, will tell her that she's fat, she's ugly, she's disgusting. So she would try to avoid mirrors at all costs. Okay, she would, when she goes to wash her hands, she will not look at the mirror. When she buys clothes, she goes into the changing rooms. She will not even look at herself in the mirror. I don't know how she buys clothes that way. Okay, anyway, she also had to give up her love of dancing because she just couldn't bear to look at her image, okay, in the reflection of those mirrors that's plastered in the dance studio. And then she came for my Significant Woman class, all right? And when she attended the class, she was so amazed and so thrilled to learn that God loves her the way she is. By the way, she's not fat, okay? It is just her perceived body image, that's all. And she learned that, God made us fearfully and wonderfully, And because the significant women class, right, we actually use the principles that is organized according to the POLS, okay, PEARLS. Okay, so we use POLS as an acronym for the principles. So she saw herself as a pearl of God, okay, how God made each one of us so uniquely, so beautifully. And as she begins to see herself as a beautiful masterpiece of God, she started to accept herself and her beauty and to accept her body the way God created her to be. And this in turn, right, helped her to accept other people as well and celebrate other women, okay, and their own beauty. And today she's actually a social worker. She works at a hospice, ministering to dying patients and grieving families as well. I think what she does, right, she cannot be as effective as she is today if she hasn't learned to love herself and accept herself. Yeah, so I find that, answering that identity question, right, is actually so important for our young people to know that they are valued, that they are unique, and they all have a contribution, to the world. And another thing about the Soaring and the Quest program, okay, is also that it actually builds communities. Okay, as I said, the Soaring and Quest program is more for non-believers. It's very seeker-friendly. So last year, a colleague who actually works with postgrads, okay, in one of our unis, requested for me to help her, all right, lead this group. So I would sit in with her, kind of mentor her, and then together we lead this group of 5 graduates. And it's a very interesting group because 3 of them are food scientists. Okay, so just now Joanne was talking about this girl, right, who wants to help people, right, with nutrition and body image, right? So actually we can be a food scientist as well. So we have 5 girls in this group. 3 are Christians who brought 2 of their non-Christian friends. And you find that through Soaring, right, because of the time and a lot of time is given for interaction, for sharing with one another. It actually builds a community in the midst of it. And even after Soaring ended, okay, even though the 2 girls have not actually received Christ, but what they went through for Soaring was so positive that they decided to journey together as a group to continue to discover what their life foundation can be like. Okay, so they actually went on to do Christianity Explained, an evangelistic Bible study tool to help them see if they want to believe in Jesus, okay, as their life foundation. Yeah, so that has been a very good experience for them. And right now, I want to show you a slide that tells us what a life design summary is. Okay, so Maggie, can you screen share that? Yes. Okay, so one of the tools, right, that we use for Soaring is actually what we call a life design summary. So for Soaring, we use many life coaching tools. So this is just a summary of all the tools that we have. So you look at this tool, it basically answers the 3 questions of who am I, all right? So the who am I, we would help people to discover their personality type, okay, their strengths and their weaknesses, okay, even their skills and abilities, all right, and their core values. And the last time I did Soaring, right, with a group of undergrads under Mentor Hub, okay, that's part of their mentoring program. A lot of people gave feedback that their takeaway, right, from this program is actually the lesson on core values. And I thought that was pretty surprising to me, but they found that lesson very, very helpful to them to recognize what are the beliefs that are so important to them. Yeah, and then just now, Joanne was sharing about the Perma Model, right? So over here at the Soaring program, we actually help them to identify their key relationships. Yeah, and it is very interesting when I, did it with the Mentor Hub mentees, that a lot of people actually put their parents as part of their key relationships. Yeah, that was surprising because I think that for young people, they may, rather go to their friends, or, other people other than their parents. But it goes to show that parents are still a very significant part of their lives. Yeah, and then part of the Who Am I also talks about their life themes, their life experiences. So we actually help them to craft out their life map. Okay, so they actually chart out their lives. and they actually think about their positive and their negative experiences. Okay, so they talk about their highlight, their lowlights, and even the turning points in their lives. And we would tell them that you cannot change your life, all right? But you can change the way you look at your life. You can edit, okay, the way you look at your life. So your certain things that may be difficult for you in your life can be, defining moments for you, but they don't have to define your life, okay? Because God can use those experiences, hard as they are, to refine you and to make you a better person. Yeah, so through working on their life experiences, we find that it actually brings some healing to them because they're able to reflect, and then they're able to share with one another and come up with a theme. And many times, when we go through this kind of sharing, right, you will hear people say things like, oh, I have never shared with anyone what I have gone through. And it's very remarkable that, when they share, they realize that they are not alone. Because sometimes I find that, the evil one wants to isolate us in some of these experiences. They make us feel that, oh, I'm the only one going through it. I'm really bad. Okay, and it's very shameful to speak of those experiences. But I find that when people share, they start to realize that, hey, there's some experiences that are so universal, and instead of isolating us, it actually helps us to reach out to one another. It actually connects us in a deeper way. So I find that sovereign is very powerful, especially for the non-Christians, because it really gives them a platform to share their lives with one another. Yeah, and other than who am I, right? The life design summary also talks about why am I here. Okay, so that's the part where it talks about the life foundation, okay, in the box on the bottom left. So the life foundation would actually help our people to think about the drivers in their lives. What is the driving force? Okay, is it, love and acceptance from people? Is it peace, okay, and security? Or is it the accomplishments that really drive them? And at the end of the day, when they look at their, life foundation, they would have to ask themselves, is my life foundation stable enough? Is it secure enough to get me through life? Okay, and that is where we present to them, okay, have you thought of having God as your life foundation? Okay, have you thought of God and his unconditional love for you? Because you can, look to your family, but your family is not going to be with you forever. Okay, you can go for your accomplishments, but there's so many things that is beyond our control. Like, for example, the COVID situation. Okay, and many people are looking for peace and security, and I don't know where else we can get peace and security during these unstable times other than in Jesus himself. Yeah, and then the third question answers, where am I going? That's where we help people to write down their life direction, okay? And before that, we help them to uncover their passions. Yeah, so many times, right, we may think that youth may be, they seem to be very disinterested, for example, or they may seem to not be going for a cause, but actually it's not true. I find that young people these days, if you ask them what is it that really resonate with them, or what is it that they're passionate about, okay, they can tell different kinds of causes. Like, for example, a lot of people are passionate about animals. They're passionate about recycling, about sustainability. So their passion may not be, okay, I want to study to be a doctor, that kind of thing. But they can be passionate about many things. And I think it is for us to help them uncover what it is. Because I find that many times, with our Singapore, academic system, we tend to put a lot of favors, on academic performances. And some of our students who are academically weaker, okay, they think that, okay, I'm hopeless, or I'm not good enough. And so they go through life not having a good self-esteem. Yeah, but I think I'm helping people to discover their passions and then helping them to craft their life direction would actually help them a lot. Okay, let's go to the next point. Next slide, Maggie. Okay, so this is actually a completed summary, all right, of this young girl who is in the finance sector. So when she started out doing this soaring program, she came as a non-believer. All right, and you can see that she has filled in, like for example, you look at those in, you can look at her life themes, right? Hers is to, she recognized her life experiences as achievements and failures. Okay, and then you can see her strengths and weaknesses over there as well, and then she identified her key relationships. You see there? She put her parents, okay, as part of her key relationships. And I think that even when sometimes people don't have a lot of key relationships, it's fine because it helps them to see that, hey, this is something that they really need to work on. They need to start building relationships, okay, with people who can be affirming to them. All right, and you can see that her skills and abilities, that she's in marketing, she's in financial management, she's outgoing and sporting. All right, and then if you look at her core values, okay, her core values is fitness is very important to her because I think it fits into her being sporting and outgoing. Happiness is very important to her, and she enjoys learning and growth and hard work. And her life foundation, okay, her life foundation is to have a close relationship with God and others, and she wants to live her life to the fullest potential. So those are very important to her. Okay, I'm at the green box. Okay, and then for her passion, right? Her passion is actually helping others. Okay, so on the left, you can see, okay, that relationship with others. So the fullest potential, close relationship with others is actually her life foundation. And her helping others is actually her passion. And she wants to help people reach their goals, all right, reaching their goals, especially the young adults and those from less privileged family. So that's actually her life direction. Okay, so through going through this coaching course, she's able to find out, all right, that her life direction is actually helping people from less privileged background. Yeah, and then so you can see that having this life design summary creates a lot of self-awareness for the person. And I think when somebody is self-aware, when they know what they're really good at, it actually builds a lot of self-confidence, okay? And when you're confident, when you feel good about yourself, I think that's when you really feel that there's something that you can contribute to, okay, to the people around you and to the society as well. Yeah. Okay, right now what we want to do is to listen to a testimony, okay, on video of a young person who has attended soaring and how she finds soaring to be so helpful to herself and how she is using it to impact the lives of others around her.
Hello, my name is Kimberly and I'm currently working in the retail industry. I get to meet with a lot of people daily and it's one of my drivers at work. Before soaring, I never knew what I was created for. I had no sense of direction and wasn't sure nor clear about what my heart truly desires. But whenever every juncture comes to make a decision, then I'll just be the follower. Soaring has shown me that I can even apply what I have learned in my workplace. One really good example, we get their students to come on board with us as part of their school's internship program. While they are with us, we conduct the soaring course with them. And my heart goes out to all these youths. I feel many youths these days may not have a sense of direction in terms of where they really want to go, or maybe they have a direction but they don't know how to get there. And some of them may not even have a direction to begin with. So I feel like soaring has really helped them a lot, and how soaring has benefited them, I felt was that they were able to identify their life passions and what drives them. They were also able to discover their life direction and the meaning of purpose of their lives, which I felt was very important. I believe this has also helped them to be at school, be at home or anywhere, and this is something they can take it with them wherever they go.
Okay, yeah, so this is how, soaring can be used. Usually you find that when, people come through the program, they're really excited, about what they have learned. And we have facilitators training actually to equip you so that you can go out and multiply, the resource and multiply yourself in the lives of others. All right, over to you, David.
Thank you, Sharon. Right now, I just want to bring in Ivan. Ivan, I'd like to ask you, in what other contexts can soaring and quest be used?
Yes, David, there are several contexts which we can explore. particularly working with young people and youth. One of it is especially in their key milestones or before their key milestones. So this is a very good place where we can bring the program to them to help them discover particularly what their interests are, their skills, abilities are, their passion, and also what they are looking forward to in terms of their life purpose and their direction. So let me share two contexts through the pictures that's been put on the PowerPoint. So one of this is working with young graduates, because as they move towards graduation, one of the concern is what kind of job, what kind of place should they be in. So this is really a good place to help the young graduates to work towards the place where they want to be. So one of the stories that I have is this graduate actually is a graduate that has 3 different possible life direction that he wants to pursue. So as we map up the 3 possible one, then the question that we normally ask is, which one do you think is most possible for you at this season of your life? Then he selected one. And then it says, okay, what are some possible things that you want to do out of this? Then he says, these are some possibilities. So this is really very helpful because it really helps them to chart out what they want. And they do have dreams, they do have aspiration. Sometimes they have multiple, and they need some of this context or the time to narrow down for them. And some of it, after thinking through, I say, maybe this is not for me now at this point. But the encouragement is to ask them to keep it still in their radar, because at some other point when they develop other capacities, they still may be able to reach to that bigger goals that they have set for themselves. So this is for undergraduates. Okay, the second context is for young working adults. So I've been working in the young professional ministry for 9 years. And one of the key concerns that they have is about their place at work and also their calling and how to serve God in the workplace. So this is really where having a clear life direction statement through the Soaring or Quest program will be really helpful for them. So this is for a group of young working adults. They have been at the workplace for a number of years, and through working through the program itself, they have a clarity of their life direction. So one note about the life direction statement that we normally will tell the participant is this, okay, there is something that you like to do, maybe perhaps beyond your present career, but do bear in mind, as what Joanne says, there's a livelihood question that they have to consider. Because if it's not sustainable, then sorry, I think it's not possible at this moment. They can volunteer, they can explore, but they still have to anchor on a profession or on a career that will be able to sustain them. So this conversation is very helpful because it gives them the possibility and say, okay, if this is something bigger than me at this point and I need to be sustainable, perhaps in the course of my work, my career, I can develop skills that will help me contribute towards that direction that I have, and that is the passion that they have. So these are contexts in which we can use. The third context I want to share is in the context of a family. So there was this facilitator that has been helping us to facilitate the Significant Woman course. She has 3 boys in the family. They are in their late teens, and also 2 of them are in their early 20s. So when she looked at the boys and their career, she was a bit kind of like thinking like, okay, how can I help my boys to succeed in what they are interested at? So she brought this Soaring and Quest back to her home, and she does it with her kids, and also just listening to the kids' dreams, their passion, and what they're good at, and also working through with them, and then allowing them to make a decision. So this is a context in which of a family which we are also thinking about, because it can be called a significant family, where families do the significant project resources together, either the discipleship one or the seekers friendly Quest and Soaring. And through the interaction with their kids, they also hear their kids' desire. But of course, I think as what Joanne said, listening is so important. Being a parent that is able to listen, draw the kids, and not have to force down the kids in terms of what they have for their kids is really a very important factor to succeed in this. So these are some of the contexts, and also one of it which I thought of is also like O and A level programs, or rather post O and A level programs. So especially for church youth workers, sometimes we have camps for the youth after their O and A levels. I think this is one possible option where you can make use of story and quest in the context of helping your youth discover their life purpose, life direction, and also to make it in a way that they can invite their friends. So it's actually a very helpful context where they can invite their friends along to this post-O and A-level program. And they can also bring their friends to know about God, to have a relationship with God, or to deepen their relationship with God. So these are some of the contexts that we can think of. Of course, Joanne has mentioned about the mentor Project Aspire, which is a mentoring program. So one of the marketplace leaders have a heart for underprivileged undergraduates. So she started up this program, and she's using Soaring and Quest to help the mentees discover their life direction and purpose. David?
Oh, thanks, Ivan. Just want to ask whether you have any more things to add with regards to Mentor Hub.
Mentor Hub, yes. There is a program that Mentor Hub has developed, and it's very robust because they engage industry mentors to coach the mentees. So in the start of this program, the founder actually has the idea of not just about the career, but also about the spiritual aspects, the soul aspects of it. So as a believer, she also wants to emphasize the soul aspects of it. So she approached us to use the Soaring and Quest, and we have been doing it for 5 years. And the thing is, it gives a framework for the mentees to understand what they desire, and also for the mentors who are looking at the life design summary, which Sharon explained, to have an idea of how to coach them, looking into their skills, their interests, their values and things like that, and their passion, to coach them in the way that is unique to them as a person. So this is a very helpful program for both the mentees and also the mentors, because they have a framework, they understand about the uniqueness of the mentees that they are coaching.
Thank you, Ivan. I think from what we have also gathered from Ivan's sharing, there is always a step before there's an invitation to a program. Yeah, so there is that importance of relationship building, and there is the importance of creating intentional coaching or conversation moments with your youths or young adults before you think about doing asking them for something like a course or some program that they can do. So there, and also at the same time, there may be something you learn from Sharon's sharing just now on some of the key principles on how to help discover a person's significance and life purpose, which you can also pepper throughout your conversations with your youth or with your children or with your child. So right now, I'll open up the time for time of question and answer, Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to put inside the chat or pigeonhole with regards to these few resources you've heard: Significant Woman, Man of Impact, Soaring, or Quest. So feel free to also unmute yourself to ask any questions if you have.
Can I answer the question that I think Cynthia asked about how to start the youth sharing about their lives, as some may be very personal. So one of the things that we do at the start of each class is that we get people to agree on some group norms, for example, and we ask them also to share what makes them feel that the group would be a safe environment for them. Okay, so invariably people will share things like confidentiality, authenticity, and all that. So we say, okay, let's agree to be authentic. Let's agree to share our lives, and whatever we share, we keep within the 4 walls. And then when we start doing the life experiences, you know, we actually would teach them how to look for the high points and the low points and look for themes. So we tell them that they can share as much as they want to, or as little as they feel comfortable about. Okay, but invariably, I find that we all have a need to be known. Okay, we have stories within us. We want people to ask us, but it's just that sometimes you don't have the platform. It's like, you know, I cannot go up to Joanne and say, hey, Joanne, you know, I want to tell you about my life. You know, this is what happened during my childhood, you know. It's like, sometimes we feel as if we don't have permission, right, to talk about all these things. But I feel like in a group setting, when everybody is ready to share, it really creates that kind of environment. And you tend to have people who are actually very transparent, and they would actually share very deep things. And so it just encourages people to share. Yeah, and usually when we share, there's a lot of tears, a lot of affirmation, That's why, yeah, it is really good to do it, let's say maybe in a youth group or cell group, or actually if you do it within a group of people that already know one another, it actually bonds the group even more, okay? Because they'll share things that, the rest may not have heard before, from their childhood and things like that. Yeah. So we do assure people that, you can just share your themes, all right? And, like some of those hard places, especially if you have not processed through them and you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to really go into details about them. Yeah. So we also want to respect where people are at in their life journey as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon, for sharing that. We have a question in Pigeonhole. Just thought whether you might want to answer them also. For secondary school youths, their life purpose or direction at that point is sometimes having as much fun as I can and experience as many things as I can, usually thrill seeking. How can we process this? Sharon or Ivan or Joanne, anybody can answer.
Yeah, actually, when we come to the values, right, you will realize that, some of them, their values could be fun, pleasure, that kind of thing. So that is where we can discover where they are at, all right? But I also find that when they fill in their skills and their abilities, okay, that is where also you can find out what they're really good at. And I find that we tend to gravitate towards the things that we are good at. Okay, so if let's say, for example, I'm really good at sports, okay, I'm really excited about it, so maybe you can help them to link what they're good at to how they can use it, okay, for a better good. Okay, that means if I'm just good at sports, how about, seeing sports as a platform, okay, to reach out to people from a disadvantaged family or things like that.
Yeah. So the example that I have about my nephew is he's very good at computer gaming. So in working through with him in this regard about his future, what he wants to do, one of the things that we did as my wife and myself worked through him is to help him identify what skills he's good at through the gaming. And I think one of the things we identified is about his strategic thinking skills that he has. So through that identification of the strategic thinking skills that he has in gaming, in playing Dota, and also in networking with friends, knowing that while he really loves his friends, he gets his friends together, then we help him to be affirmed. Actually, from what he's good at, there can be a purpose or utility of what he's good at in his future. So it's identifying that for the students or for the youth, and to affirm them that actually what you are doing right now, though it may be for fun, it may be for maybe pleasure, or I think at the heart of it is actually connecting with people, the relationship that is what they are craving for actually. Yeah, amidst all the gaming, is to identify for them, and also from there, knowing what they value. And knowing what they value will actually help them to be clearer about their purpose. So like what Sharon says, I think the purpose part of it, the direction part of it is not just something out from the air, because we can draw from their skills, we can draw from their strength, we can draw from their values, and then from there we can help them to see a bigger picture beyond just the fun, the relaxation, the entertainment, the things that normally teenagers are looking at, but to something bigger than that. So that's something that we have found very helpful.
Good. Joanne, do you have anything to add?
No, well, I would just say that as Ivan has shared, Ivan and Sharon has shared, a lot of times thrill seeking is exploring different identities and actually seeking acceptance from their peer group. So it is very useful to even ask, the youth, so how was it today? Who are your friends? Even being interested in the people that they hang out with, and finding these as moments where we can even connect with them. And I think always, find out from the youth, and they want to know that you are interested in them. I think that's the most important, not that we are judging, that this is an important life stage where they are exploring, and then to actually let them know your concerns. I think one of the concerns a lot of parents shared, which I didn't mention just now, and which Sharon and Ivan has not shared about, is actually setting boundaries. And this program also has that, which is, we call it values in action. And hearing from their own peer group how they manage the different values and how they set boundaries, even in the time they spend with their friends and managing other aspects of their life. And why is it that I have my concern, I as a parent have my concerns, and how can we work around these boundaries? So it's kind of like honest conversation that I'm interested in you, I'm concerned about you, but there are boundaries. And the other thing I want to assure parents is that, Singapore, in the early days where we have not enough resources, there was a time frame. You must take PSLE at a certain age, you must go to university at this age, and you must do this at this age. We are very different right now. There's so many stories I can share with you, because I can see the anxiety our parents have that say, my kid is not doing what he's doing at this age. All his peers are doing this at this age. They are doing O levels at this age. They are not going to the best school. I'm so afraid of their future. Actually, I'm sensing the anxiety from parents. And I want to assure them that, especially for me, when I see them at university, you are doing such a good job. And that's why we can have such affirming use. And to let go of the anxiety to say that this must be done at that age. That was Singapore at a different stage in our economic success. And the world today, there's different time frames, there are different areas to weave in the different giftings that each person have. Yeah, thank you. I mean, even things like just now they were talking about environment. Just this week, we are talking about circular economy, right? How you can use waste. In the past, we say agriculture is not going to be something Singapore is going to invest in. Now we call it food security. Even kids that are interested in agriculture, in urban farming, we're encouraging them, because times have changed. I just want to leave with that word. We don't really know the future. We don't know the future. There's only one person that controls time, and only time can tell. Thank you, David.
Joanne, there is a follow-up question on your enthusiastic support for esports and e-gaming. The question is, following your answer about e-gaming, can you help us reconcile what God says about work and e-gamer? You can see the struggle people have.
I think this needs deeper conversations. I think, just now there was a parent who shared about e-gaming, and I think we didn't give her or give us time to explore that question. I think the real question to me is about boundaries of time, about the community that's inside the e-gaming space. And let me just share with you that we just now there was another concern that our teens are not willing to share with us. You don't even know what the teens are sharing on the dark web. Whatever they don't dare to share with you in person, what are they sharing? Alternative platforms. We don't even know. We are not having conversations with our youths. I think be more fearful of that than on having honest conversations. Sometimes they are so afraid of the answer you are going to hear as parents and as youth workers, right? And I will be honest with you, I didn't share on this platform. You can imagine that I come across as very affirming. And so sometimes you share with me very, very frightening things. And how then do we walk through with them on this journey? I don't, unfortunately, because I am a program-based person, I'm in a university, so I'm not a social worker. So I do not walk with them the entire journey. And I only have this to say, if you don't have a conversation with them, there are going to be other people who want that conversation, and they may not be the community that you want to encourage either. Thank you.
There are a few questions on how do you guide and assist and help youths who are also going through some mental health challenges. Yes, so I wonder, how do you actually navigate that? How can we give handles to some of our audience who actually wonder, right, before I can get to the step of helping them find purpose and significance, but I have youth who are really struggling with their mental health and with their depressive thoughts. So what do you have to say about that? Sharon, since you're unmuted.
Yeah, I forgot to mute myself earlier. Okay, I think that if, let's say, I think that if someone needs professional counseling help, I think we need to refer a person to a counselor. Okay, I have friends who are counselors, and I just reconnected with a JC friend, who's a counselor, and she was telling me that very often, right, youths these days struggle with anxieties. Okay, so it first can start off with anxieties over performance or social anxieties. Okay, like, oh, I do not know, I go to a new school, I don't know whether I can mix around or not, or I do not know whether I'm going to do well for my exams, that kind of thing. So it first started off as anxieties, and she says that if anxieties are not treated, it can lead to depression. Yeah, so I think that once we see certain signs, I think we can let our children know that it's okay, to get some help, to seek some help, and get some regular help too. I know that sometimes when we go through the subsidized system, is a once a month thing, it may not be frequent enough for a child who is depressed. Yeah. So I think don't wait. Get the person the professional help that they need. I think what we can do for Soaring and Quest is to do a bit more preventive or coming alongside, helping people to say that, if you can discover what you're really good at. Remember my girl about the body image thing and how she eventually went back to dancing. I find that if we can help our youths to see that there are many pathways, okay, to success, it's not just the academics, then I think it will really help them it will really liberate them, okay, to be who they are made to be. They do not have to compare themselves with other people. I think many times, right, the sad thing about comparison, right, is that I compare my weakness to someone else's strengths. And because of that, I feel that I'm always not good enough. Yeah, or some of us, we perhaps, if you can know what their personalities are, that's why, during this course, we get them to do their personalities. So if you know their personalities, okay, if I'm the more melancholic, person, I'm more perfectionistic, okay, I will have a higher expectation of myself. Yeah, so no matter how good I am, I feel that I always need to be doing better. And I think the good thing about these courses is that we actually help people to do a lot of reflection. We ask a lot of questions. Like, for example, why is it that it's so important, okay, for you to do well? Okay, let's say your value is excellence, performance, achievement. Why is that so important to you? Okay, and if you look at the life foundation, it could be that my life foundation is that I want to do all this so that I can be loved and accepted. Okay, but if we know that our love and acceptance is already rooted in Christ and his love for us, then we don't have to feel that we have to strive so hard to perform to gain God's love and the love of other people. Okay, I think it helps us it gives us permission, okay, to be human, okay, to know that we have our strengths and our weaknesses, and we can actually focus on our strength and not just focus on our weaknesses.
Thank you, Sharon. Joanne?
Just to supplement what Sharon said just now about professional help, every IHL today, Institute of Higher Learning, has a department which is psychological counseling. It's free. These are professional counselors. So as an educator, maybe I suggest you get the number of the helpline. There are people that the child can meet face to face and provide it with the youth. Sometimes the youth will tell you that they call and nobody answered. So you want to be the one that connect, because we have these individuals come and brief us. Every IHL has a department. Sometimes the help, and they are also linked to other areas. Let me give you an example. One of the anxiety a youth may face, especially if they come from lower income family, is actually physical resources, right? Like help for their parents. The parents are out of work, And these counseling department also are linked to other government agencies that can provide the help. So let me just remind you one more time that the IHLs have this help, and it is free. It is inside the education service, and it is anonymous. Even the educator doesn't know, so that the child's privacy is protected. And of course, if the child is currently under threat of physical harm, then it's very important to help the child and remove them from those threats. Yeah.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. There's a question on, I like to run Soaring Quest in church as a post-O A-level program. Can a cell leader or youth worker run it, or would I need a trained facilitator from crew? Ivan, could you answer the question?
Yes, David. I think the preferred way is that the cell leaders and the youth workers run it, because you know your audience better. So the process is to join a course to understand what this course is about. And also, as Pei has written on the chat, there are training available. So through that facilitation training, you'll learn how to facilitate the course. So I would suggest that the preferred way actually is for you to experience it, be trained, and also to bring it back to your cell group or to your church youth.
Okay, great. Which gives us time to really close out this segment with some key announcements on resource-related and also course-related questions. Maggie, could we have that slide that has the 3 QR code to give people more information? Right. Firstly, we have an upcoming webinar, Building Community Resilience Through Literacy, Tuesday Talks number 9, is featuring readables and reading roots. Secondly, we have, and the next Collab to Reach Conversation, Reimagining Youth Ministry by Reverend Dr. James Chong and Pastor Joel Tan and Ang Hen Shen. They are also very experienced in both campus ministry work and youth work. And we also have a Tuesday Talk, number 10, the 10th Tuesday Talk, 全心赞美 by 赞美之泉 on the 13th of October. It's a tie-up with Streams of Praise on a Chinese worship session from 8 to 9:30 p.m. that day. Many of you have asked, how do you purchase? And I think that you could drop a personal email, and you can also refer to the chat on how do you purchase all the Men of Impact or Soaring materials. You can connect with Ivan after this session or Sharon after this session, and there will be also links posted to the chat. And how do you connect more to get trained? Yes, you can stay back and ask more questions either face-to-face or in chat. So allow me to close us in prayer as we go on and proceed to our rest of the afternoon. Dear God, we want to thank you so much. God, above all, we want to commit our relationships with our youths and young adults. Father, you know that there's much work to do to love them more, to love them with our time, to love them with our attention, to love them with our affirmed call, to love them with our affirmation. So Lord, we pray that you will empower us and anoint us in all that we do, whether we are a parent or whether we are a youth worker or young adult worker or campus worker. God, help us. Lord, we first want to come in with a posture that says, we don't know, but you know. Help us. We surrender all of our problems, issues, challenges, and our youths and our sheep to you. God, we pray that you will help grant them that hope in life, the joy in life, as we have also experienced them. So God, we also want to thank you for Joanne, Ivan, and Sharon for bringing us valuable insights in today's session. We commit these to you and all these in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much for your time, and feel free to stay back and ask more questions or resource-related questions. You can refer to this to the chat. Thank you, and have a good Saturday and a weekend ahead.